Just came out from watching the Odyssey. Oh my God, this movie was really something special. Now, the one thing that was really interesting about this movie, how it feels like it's a bit of every movie that he's ever done. It's like a culmination of all those different movies. And this was like, it was big, it was epic. There are things that maybe could have been more fantastical or kind of like drawn out, but it didn't really need to do this. Like the tale is very focused. It knows what it's trying to do. I mean, it's obviously coming from one of the greatest epics that has ever been told. And interestingly enough, I mean, I've grown up very big with a passion for Greek mythology, but I fell off. That was something that was more kind of like my teen years, and now seeing all of this all over again, it's kind of drawing out a lot of my love for it. But interesting, I never really jumped into these stories, right? The Iliad and the Odyssey. Both books I never really jumped into, but I was always very big into Greek mythology. When I think about this movie and what Nolan was really trying to do at this point, it makes me realize that part of the reason he really wanted to do this was because of the message behind it. And I think that's the biggest, like the draw. That's the biggest draw I could imagine why Christopher Nolan wanted to take this movie on in particular, because the reality is there's parallels. You know, there's parallels to a lot of the things that we might see in our modern day life. So being able to tell it in this way, and it makes me realize also why he kind of chose to do more natural speak, because it allows you to kind of break it down and also see it for the parallels that it actually has. Now, without moving more into anything plot based, I will say that there was only like one part that didn't really hit with me right. And it wasn't really for the narrative part of it. It was more for the performance and how it was portrayed. And I think to me that was the weakest part of it, but it was only one part in that whole movie. The movie itself just was a constant energy to it, kind of leading to its ultimate climax. Now, I think to me, the star of the show was the soundtrack and the way that he used audio to kind of build up all of those moments that were happening on there, because like he knows it. Like if you watch those Christopher Nolan movies, you know he knows how to like pound those moments in. And earlier I was talking about one of the things I didn't like, which was one of the performances on there. But outside of that, to me, the rest of the performances just nailed it. And he definitely did a good job gathering some great talent across the board, you know, putting all these different people together to tell this epic tale. Just the casting itself was kind of its own epic journey in certain ways too, putting all these pieces together. And you know, maybe this is a bit of a hot take, but I also look at the fact that he did all this different kind of casting with all these different kind of people, looks, and this is coming from Greek mythology, yet a lot of it looks like our world today. And again, I think a lot of that has to do because he wanted to drive that narrative that of the parallels that we have of today. So kind of allowing us to almost see this with our world today. So all in all, do I recommend this movie? Absolutely. Now, I think it'll be one of those things that not everybody is going to absolutely adore it. You know, I still think that when you look at some of his other movies overall, I think some of them will still stay on the top, like for those fans that like Interstellar, for example. That one's still gonna stay, up there because that hits kind of a little different kind of mode overall. But when you talk about epicness, when you talk about just the massive, like the realness of it, because a lot of those things made you feel like you were right in there. But that's something that he's done through a lot of his things, especially Dunkirk. So again, like I feel it's an amalgamation of a lot of his different movies, especially with the way the storytelling is told, kind of like with bits and pieces thrown throughout. It is great, and I really feel there was a massive correlation with his last movie Oppenheimer as well too. And there's just a lot of pieces in there, and ultimately I do think that this was just a phenomenal movie to me. I mean, he doesn't miss. Now there's going to be a lot of people that don't like it for whatever amount of reasons, but just talking at it purely from a cinematic experience, I do think it was great. And to talk about the last piece, which is obviously this was filmed in IMAX, but like everything was filmed in IMAX. I don't think that the movie suffers from having to scale down to the different aspect ratios that you'll see in the regular movie theaters. By the way, I saw it in Dolby. Great sound experience, by the way. Oh man, which is probably another reason why the soundtrack itself really hit for me. But seeing it in Dolby and seeing it scaled down because it's not in the IMAX format, I don't think it suffered. There was one part where I did feel like maybe you could have brought this up a little bit more just in the framing, but honestly that's something that you'll see almost in every movie, because most movies are actually, well, not most, a lot of movies are filmed in kind of a larger format, so they are scaled to work for movie theaters, to give a little more space for the edit cut room. But the way that Christopher Nolan handled this, and this is the last thing that I'm going to talk about real quick, which is when I look at this movie and I think of the fact that IMAX cameras are only available to be filmed 3 minutes at a time, and you think of the intensity of all those scenes, and the fact that they finished, I think, 9 days early. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they definitely finished it early. It's incredible that he was able to do that in that time frame. So all in all, definitely recommend when it comes to this movie. And I might have to make a trip out to go see it in the full 70 millimeter presentation IMAX, so I could really get that full kind of presentation in there. But that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching.